everybody, it's Kathy. Thanks for coming back to my channel. I'm here today with a different kind of video. It's my first year as a junker, my lessons learned. I want to share with you some of the things that inspire me and some of the lessons I've learned as a junk journaler throughout this year. So let's get started. Let me take out the table of contents. And the first thing we're going to talk about is inspiration. Where do I get my inspiration from? If you've seen my channel, you know that I make all different kinds of journals. I love trying new things. And some of those things just come out of my head, but most of them I get from a variety of places. Let's see. I get my inspiration from books. They could be magazines that are specifically about junk journaling or art. They could be books that I'm reading, poetry, Shakespeare, etc. They could be just any variety. They could be a book on nature, on flowers, on artists, on graffiti, etc. So I take a lot of my inspiration from books. I also am very visual, so I get a lot of my inspiration from colors and from art that I see. Nature, absolutely. I love the outdoors and the colors I find outdoors and the insects and the animals. Definitely get inspiration from people, particularly people's faces and expressions. I love characters. I'm an actress, so I certainly like to study people and what they're all about. And emotions really drive a lot of my art in my journals. So think about where you get your inspiration from. I started out, my very first journals were things that I saw in books, in specifically books about journaling. That helped me kind of get started. Okay, so let's put this back. And what's next on the list? In the beginning. Okay, in the beginning, I was particularly overwhelmed. I would go on YouTube and see so many amazing journals that I wanted to make, and I wanted immediate gratification. I wanted to make those things right away, but I obviously didn't have the skills to do it. So in the beginning, the one word is overwhelmed that I can use to describe where I was. I got a little frustrated because the things I was trying to make didn't look like what other people's were like. I tried to copy a lot of what other people were doing without learning the skills to be able to do it. So that kind of was where I was in the beginning. I wanted to do it so badly, but I really didn't have the skills to know what to do. So I had to look for where I could gain those skills. So, and I had, when I was looking at how to get started, I would go into Michael's or Joann's or Hobby Lobby, and I would see all these materials. And I started buying materials far beyond the skills I had to use them. But I thought, oh, this is good. I'll take this and I'll buy this. You know, bought hundreds of dollars worth of stuff, many of which I didn't really need, but I said, just in case, yeah, this will make it easier, etc. So then my next issue came up with, how do I organize all this stuff? So I bought boxes, clear boxes to put it in. I bought crates. I bought every kind of organizer you could think of. I got it, and I tried to organize it because I ended up having so much stuff. So that was a big issue in the beginning, is to first, where am I going to put my materials and organize them so that I have a space to create in? And because I was really restless. And finally, I kind of calmed down. I got my things a little organized, and I got a space to be able to create in. And then eventually I was able to get one of the scrapbox, Dreambox things, which has changed my life, I have to say. And they're very expensive, but, you know, it has helped me tremendously. I bought it on time with 0 interest if you pay it off in 6 months. And it was $2,000. It was expensive. And there's cheaper ways to do it, but this system has changed my life. Everything's at my fingertips. And I had a lot of stuff. So all I'm saying with that is organize yourself. Find a space you can create in, however you like to create. You know, many of you might be doing it on your dining room table. Many of you might be doing it a corner in the garage, or a little piece of your bedroom, a little piece of the living room. You've taken over your dining room. You know, there's all kinds of places. As long as you have a place where you feel comfortable and your creative juices can flow. That's one of the first things you need to do. After you get your stuff and you're so inspired, and organize it. Okay? Then the next thing is I figured out what my favorites. And when I say faves, I mean on YouTube. Who did I relate to? Who helped me learn the craft? Who helped me gain the skills? And I have quite a few of them. And I started with Amity Bloom. She definitely now is not my style, but she was pleasant to listen to. I like to follow her. I was inspired by her creations, and that really helped me. Johanna Clough, I love her style. She helped me too. These both, Amity and Johanna, they kind of calmed me down in understanding what I wanted to do with my journaling. Then I went to a couple of folks, the next 3 folks, who really, really gave me the skills. That's Mrs. Cogs, might be Mrs. Cogs, Gayle Agostinelli, and Nik the Booksmith. Nik the Booksmith is far the favorite. She's very technical and is extremely creative as far as ideas that she comes up with. Gayle, on the other hand, is very creative as well, as is Mrs. Cogs, a different style of teaching. I relate more to the style of teaching that Nik has, but I relate to Mrs. Cogs and Gayle in their creations. So it's interesting. So why I'm telling you this is Carol Tinson is another person I just found recently. She's got some wonderful creations, and she's a wonderful teacher. She has crafty emporium designs. But what I'm saying is, watch YouTube. These are all YouTube folks. Watch YouTube and find the folks that excite you and give you what you need, because there's so many out there. So that's all I want to say about that. Some wonderful, wonderful folks, and I'm indebted to them. And then learn what you need to do. So sometimes you can go and watch videos, and they're making these wonderful journals, but they're far beyond your level. In the beginning, I had to learn the basics. So I looked for specific videos on binding, for example, or specific YouTubes on making pockets, making flaps, etc. So learn. And every week I would try to learn something new. So I'm at a point now, after a year, that I have kind of a a tool chest of skills that I can call upon, and they've come naturally to me, and then allow me to share those with other people. And last is take risks. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because in the beginning I was kind of frozen. There were so many ideas going around in my head, and I couldn't do anything because I couldn't get started. So I had to learn to back down, and start very slowly, and learn to take risks. And no big deal if you make a mistake. The great thing about paper crafting is it's so easily fixable. You just plop another piece of paper on top of it, and voila, it's it's fixed. Let's go over to this side. So in the beginning, where did I begin? I started with pre-made stuff. That was the easiest way for me to start. I found something at Michael's that was on sale. It was a pre-made book that you could bind, and I started there. Once I finished that, I felt, wow, I did it. I made a journal, and I was so excited about it. So that might be a way for some of you who haven't began, you're kind of in that frozen stage, to try something pre-made. Let's see, the next thing. YouTube and books, I've already talked about that. Try to watch one a week if you can. But don't go crazy, because you'll get overwhelmed. And then I had too many materials. After I bought and really hadn't made so much, particularly paper, what I found is I have so much paper, I ended up giving quite a bit of it away, because after I really began to make journals, I really found out that all these paper 12 by 12 cardstock pieces and scrapbook paper, I didn't need them. I needed some cardstock at the beginning of signatures and maybe a few places throughout, or to cover a journal, but I didn't need so much. And then all the scrapbook paper, the thinner paper, I really, really don't use a whole lot of that. Because when I'm making a journal, I want places for folks to write on. So unless I've chosen the scrapbook paper that has a better background design so you can write on it, I really don't use it that often. So I have a lot of scrapbook paper, that I try to incorporate into decoration. But I found that plain copy paper, I buy my paper at Amazon. I get an ivory parchment style, and I use that much more often because I can tea stain it, and it's a lot. I use it much more often. So even though if you're just starting out, you've probably already bought a lot of materials, don't feel that you have to buy a lot of materials. You can make a journal very easily without having all that stuff. That's what I've really learned, one of my biggest lessons. I want to go over some of the tools that I feel are absolutely necessary. I feel a paper trimmer is absolutely necessary. A good pair of scissors, paper scissors. I love my crocodiles. Those are these things. One has hole punch and puts in rivets, and one is a corner rounder. Are these absolutely necessary? Probably not. For me, they've made a world of difference. I could have just gotten a regular hole punch, but this has two sizes, plus it does rivets. So I always get my things usually at Tuesday morning when they're on sale a little bit, or I do them with a coupon. at 40% off or so at Michael's or Joann's. So these are two of my favorite tools. It took me a while to find a glue that I like to use. I use the Art Glitter glue, and I use it because I love this nozzle. It's very thin. It puts out a very thin line, and I love it. It's a little more expensive than other glues, but that's the glue that I prefer. The scrap box is the organizational shelving that I got. Circle punch, a 1-inch circle punch to me has made a world of difference. And distress inks. I love to use them. They're by, what's his name? I get them from Ranger Inks and love them, love them, love them. Those are some of my tools. I said paper trimmer, yeah. So those are some of my absolutely go-to tools that I feel that I really need. And that would have been it. But I have a lot more stuff than that that I didn't necessarily need. Some of the tips that I feel are important. To have a must-have list. And this is a list of items that you feel, your own personal list that you feel you must put in your journal. I learned this from Gayle Agostinelli. I actually have a video on this. It's my journal must-haves. Mine have 16 items. And this lists all the things that when I'm making a journal, I want to put in a journal. Sometimes I might put less, but what this does, having a list, when I started making journals and I had watched so many videos, there were so many things going around in my mind that when I got to the point when I was making my journal, I couldn't retrieve those things fast enough. I would become blocked with ideas. This really helped me. It still does. Project tray, I think, is real important. I use a bowl, but I gather everything that I'm going to use in that journal project and put it in there. And then that allows me to have a cleaner surface, not have to hunt for things as I'm making my journal. I have everything in one place. It's easier to clean up at the end of the night. If you don't leave your stuff out, I have a tendency to always clean my space after, each night or each day after I'm journaling. I can put it right back in that box or bowl that I have or tray. My next tip is to give it a try. As I said, you're only going to make a mistake, and that's how you learn. Watch YouTube. Join a group. My favorite group, the friendliest people, is Friendly Junk Journal people, and I love it. So check them out, and don't be afraid to ask questions to that group. You can really learn a lot. Hey, how'd you do that? Did you use this kind of paper? What kind of binding is that? Where do I get this? How do I put my binding together? They'll probably lead you to a YouTube video, or they'll let you know exactly how to do something. So those are my tips. Now, specific techniques. I'm obviously not going to go over all my techniques, but I want you to always try the basics. We talked about pre-made. Then after pre-made, I went to binding, and then one signature. I had to learn how many papers go in a signature. I learned how many papers go in a signature from Nik the Booksmith. She talked about it in a video, and it really helped me. And what I do now is I journal my ideas and inspiration. I have a journal like this. This is my inspiration journal. It's kind of a grungy look with stamps. And what I do is I take pictures of journals or things that I've made after I come up with the idea. So if I come up with ideas and I end up making them, I take a picture. And this really has helped me, sorry about that, has helped me keep track of things that I've done. And it also, you can look back and say, oh, I like that. I didn't like this about it. And you could journal right in there. It's a wonderful use for the first journal that you make. A lot of people always say, well, I love to make journal. What do I do with it? Use it. Use it for your ideas. And I think that's all I have. What's next? What's next for me is I want to learn about gel plate printing. And I watched a few YouTube videos, so next video I do will probably be something having to do with gel printing, because it's a first for me, and I wanted to start adding some paints to my journals. Anyway, I hoped this was of help to some of you. And if you have ideas that maybe you watch this and you want to add ideas to what, especially if you're a new journaler, a new junker, if you have ideas on what helped you, please put them in the comments and share them with others. That would be great. And if you put them in there, I can also go over them in our next video. I could have a Q&A with things. Or if you have questions, please let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching. And I'd appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. And if you're here and not subscribed, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks, and have a wonderful day. Stay healthy. Bye.